Join Carol Davies on Global Voice Radio, the host of Only the Best for You. Be a change maker and unlock the secret to your best life.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my podcast, Only the Best for You, here on Global Voice Radio. My name is Carol Davies of the Passion Motivator Coaching Company. I'm so pleased each week to share with you the best information and speakers about how you can be a change maker to make the world and yourself the best that you can be. Today, I am talking to you on a topic that I think about quite often. It is, how do you set personal transformation into motion? And this is going to be part one of a short series that I'll be talking about in the coming weeks. Have you come to a crossroads in your life? You've achieved a lot of what you wanted to in life and have what others would consider a good life. However, you feel like something is missing. There's a gap in your life you want to fill. Now, what do? There's a lot of things that one can do for personal transformation, and I help my clients with this very often in the different programs that we do together. And today I'd like to share with you a very powerful tool, which is called the Wheel of Change. It's fairly simple, but I'd like to go into it in some depth because I think you might find this of value to yourself. The Wheel of Change is a powerful tool for facilitating individual transformation, our own and those with whom we may coach, mentor, or support. Nelson Mandela said, "One of the most difficult things is not to change society, but to change yourself." Now, what is important when you're first starting out, whether you do this on your own or say work with a mentor or coach, is to think about those things in your life that are perhaps not satisfying you or going the way you want, and then choosing one aspect or area to start working on. The Wheel of Change works on three aspects. It works on our heart and mind, our behavior, and our structure. So I'll get into that in just a couple of moments. You see, many of our efforts to make change in our lives fail. For example, gym memberships skyrocket every January as a result of New Year's resolutions. However, 80% of new members drop out within 30 to 60 days, according to statistics. And it's sad but true, less than 5% stick with their exercise goals. Professional help is no magic bullet for individual change efforts either. Almost 50% of psychotherapy patients drop out before completing treatment. For those who persist, success is debatable. For example, research shows that fewer than 50% of married couples completing counseling end up happily married. That's not to say that the therapy is not good, but sometimes people don't stick with it. Those of you who like to organize yourselves may like this Wheel of Change because it is a systems approach to change. We humans are a complex system, encompassing an inner life, our thoughts and feelings, habits of behavior, and an external environment that has a huge impact on us. Systems, by their very nature, tend to resist change. Most change efforts fail because they fail to address the system as a whole. We may experience what seems like progress or even a breakthrough, but all too often the system, like a rubber band, tends to pull us back. So the wheel of change guides us to attend in an integrated way to each of these three domains. 1, heart and mind. Our inner life, our beliefs, emotions, motivation, etc. 2, behavior change. Our behavior, our habits, the choices we make to act and not to act. And 3, structural change. Our environment is everything external that makes up our life. Now, if we look at the aspect of all three items, think of a circle with heart and mind at the top, then the behavior a little bit further along, and then structure directly across from it. It's like a triangle with the three concepts joined by a circle. Everything works together. So if we consider the heart and mind aspect, it is necessary to realize that a skillful personal change program usually begins with attending to our heart and mind. If we start by getting clear about our motivation, our desires, and our concerns, we're far more likely to engage skillfully with changing our behavior and the structures of our life. Our inner work helps us bring our best to the change effort rather than fighting the phantoms of our own ambivalence. By working skillfully with our heart and mind, instead of failed New Year's resolutions and backsliding, we will stay the course. Inner work is a journey, it is not a destination. We initiate our personal change programs by attending to our heart and mind, but we continue our inner work throughout the change process. So here are some of the many ways that we might attend to the needs of our heart and mind in a personal change program. Think of this as a checklist. We don't need to address all these elements in every change process, but evaluating the need for each element ensures we attend to all the key variables that might further undermine the changes that we seek. The first one is purpose. It's always useful to begin by reconnecting to our purpose, our deeply felt experience of that which gives our life meaning. Purpose is like a guiding light, providing direction as well as a source of power and wisdom from which we can draw. Why do we want to change? Why do we want to make this change? The stronger the why, the greater our motivation to change our habits and the externals of our lives. Number 2 is intention. Be clear and aligned on exactly what we want to achieve. We want to harness our will and deal proactively with any unclear intent or ambivalence so that we can engage the full power of our heart and mind behind the change process. Number 3 is mindfulness and insight. What are the beliefs or mental frames that potentially stand in the way of change? What are the shifts in mindset that will open our heart and mind to new possibilities? How will we stay focused and self-reflective throughout the pace and trance of everyday life? What practices and tools can we use to remember who we are, what we're about, and our intent to change? How can we continue to strengthen our new empowering mindset? Number 4 is self-compassion. Too often the pulse to change is driven by our inner judge, that parental or societal voice chronically harping on us about who we should be and about what we should do. This harsh, nagging criticism internally inevitably generates inner conflict and possibly various forms of passive resistance. We fail to follow through on our New Year's resolutions, for example. We get impatient with ourselves and get demoralized or give up when change doesn't come easily. The process of change is actually facilitated by a practice of self-compassion. The next one is self-responsibility. Lurking in the background behind the things in our lives we want to change are often feelings of victimization. This can show up in your inner dialogue with such phrases as, I can't, but I have to, it's too hard, they won't let me, I have too much to do, and so on. We have reasons, stories, and excuses about why things are the way they are. There may well be real-world obstacles we face in trying to make changes in our life. We may fail, but in order to skillfully meet these external challenges, we must face and meet our inner obstacles. Taking full responsibility for our choices helps us mobilize our full power to accomplish our goals. Now I'd like to look at the aspect of behavior change. This inner work is the foundation for personal change. But change usually also requires us to shift our habits of behavior, to begin making different choices about what we do and don't do. So getting on top of the heart-mind aspect is important, and it becomes a basis for building personal behavior change. Now, we address this by looking at our goals. We begin by translating our intentions from the heart-mind aspect into clear goals and outcomes. What exactly are the new behaviors needed to realize our goals? How will we know when we have achieved them? We need to set milestones along the way to our larger goals to help us keep motivated and on track. The next important thing is our commitments. It is important to make very clear, specific, doable commitments. But we should only make those commitments we absolutely intend to keep. It's usually more skillful to make a series of smaller, more manageable commitments at which we are likely to succeed. This builds self-confidence and sustains our motivation for the change process. If you take on, say, 10 things you want to change, it's way too much and you get overwhelmed. Pick one or two, work at them diligently, and then you can proceed to the next ones once you feel that you've achieved the ones that you've been working on. And then we have our practices. This is an interesting thought. Our habits are habitual. I saw this written down one time and I thought, it is so true. We've spent many, many years unconsciously practicing our patterns of behavior. Some are functional and some are less so. These repetitions form neural pathways in the brain that are the biological basis of habit. To change behavior, we must consciously practice new behaviors again and again until they become a new habit. Now, the next aspect is feedback. We need regular feedback to help us keep moving in the direction of our goals. Imagine if you were trying to learn to play golf and never saw where the ball landed. We need to get creative about tracking our progress by doing such things as journaling, feedback from those who know us, or writing down actual numbers, such as the number of times we exercised this week or the number of days our mood was positive. Many aspects like this. You're systematizing things by writing them down. And also of great importance is having support. We don't have to go through change alone. We can all use encouragement and help in creating our new habits. This might look like mobilizing our support network, reaching out to friends and colleagues, getting training, coaching, taking a class or workshop to improve our skills. Many of these things will give us a basis that we can rest on, and we don't feel so alone, because sometimes when we feel alone, we become frightened and then we retreat from something that's new and we get fearful. Having support gives you that confidence that things are possible and people are there cheering you on the way. Now, the third aspect of the Wheel of Change is having structures. So we are profoundly impacted by our environment. To create sustainable change, we will almost always need to make changes in our external life. These structural changes feed our heart and mind and support our new behaviors, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of change, hence the name, the Wheel of Change. Now, this can be done through our activities. It's good to look at and ask which of our current activities support or inhibit the changes we wish to make. What changes in activities will best empower the change process? Could it be joining a gym, maybe cutting down on surfing the internet, or too much time on Facebook, possibly shifting our role at work? Whatever it is, it will take a little bit of time to think about, and when you do identify it, things will become a lot clearer. It's also important to have a schedule. We are in charge of our lives and our schedule, but very often we appear to forget that we're in charge of our schedule. We let other people's demands, other tasks that come in, take precedence over what we need to do for ourselves, which is the most important. So, what changes might we want to make in the nature, the timing, and the pace of how we schedule our lives? These are really important questions for you to think about. You are in charge. Others are not in charge of you. If you make that central in your life, you will be amazed at the change. And we have to look at relationships. We are very influenced by the people we associate with. We want to be conscious of this in our plans for change. Just like those struggling to stop drinking need to avoid social situations where there is alcohol, we may perhaps need to avoid certain people or relationships that are not doing us any good. For example, are there certain relationships or groups that either support or inhibit the changes we want to make? Are there certain relationships in which we want to invest more or less time to best support the changes we seek to make? Now, the next important area is processes. Processes are the routine methods by which we do things. Some examples of the processes include: how do we do our personal planning? The way we organize our workflow. How we delegate. The way we organize our desk or computer files, or our routine for keeping our home clean. In planning for change, we might want to step back and examine all relevant processes with a fresh eye to see how they might support or undermine the changes we want to make. For example, if keeping a clean house is very important to you, but you spend hours each week doing it, is there a way that you could look at it to delegate someone else to help you with it? Or could you schedule doing it less time, or maybe setting up a different schedule? It's all in your own hands how you approach it. And the last thing that's important is having tools. Tools include any physical object ranging from computer software and smartphones to bicycles and home exercise machines. What additional tools might support the changes we want to make? So just to recap, the heart and mind covers the topics of mindfulness and insight, compassion for ourselves, intention, self-responsibility, and purpose. Behavior covers these aspects of goals, practices, having feedback, making commitments, having support. And the third element, structure, covers such things as tools, activities, a schedule, our relationships, and our processes. In planning any given change, we won't need to attend to every one of these elements, but the wheel of change can help us to identify and address all the critical drivers of change in each of the three domains of our lives. You can ask, what is my inner work? The needed shifts in my heart and mind. What changes do I need to make in my behavior? And what changes do I need to make in my environment, the structures of my life? Here's an example of a change that I was considering making, and I went through the process. It was, I'm not getting enough sufficient exercise. I was sitting around too much. I was putting on weight. I felt sluggish. I didn't like myself very much because I thought, I know I can be doing more. So I set myself down with the wheel of change and came up with this plan. I looked at the heart-mind aspects. I did some self-reflection about why I failed to be consistent in the past. I wrote this down. I saw what I might do differently this time. Wrote down some more ideas. And I connected to the heartfelt desire for more exercise rather than the exercise feeling like something I should do. I made it feel like something I want to do. Very important. So then I looked at the behavior aspect. So I committed to doing a stretching class once a week and to do 2 30-minute practice sessions at home. And then I committed to doing a Zumba class twice a week. It's more fun than the workout machines that I consistently fail to do regularly. And I asked a couple of friends to give me active support in my new choices as I told them how I was doing and got their feedback. Now, in the aspect of structure, I joined a new health club that was a bit more expensive, but it was much closer to my house. I bought a DVD yoga stretching disc and I practice with that. I don't do the yoga as much, but I like doing the stretches because I find it hard to do on my own without structure. And then I connected with an exercise buddy at the Zumba class, and we meet up, and it's a lot of fun. So I'm looking at it now as something I look forward to. And I've created a monthly checklist to track my exercise commitments. I write down what I plan to do and then check them off. And then if I didn't make it for some reason, I write down a reason, what occurred or why. So by engaging in this systematic approach to change, I created a cycle in which changes in one domain provoke and reinforce change in the other two domains. So the wheel of change is a model for transformation. Change that is profound and fundamental, altering the very nature of something. Transformational change is both radical and sustainable, and something that is transformed will never go back to exactly what it was before. So I hope that with some of the suggestions and ideas I've come up with today, that you will find something of value that you can take away. So if you want further information or want to talk about more ideas with me, please contact me through my website, www.thepassionmotivator.com, or by email at coachcaroldavies@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Remember, you can change your life at any time and become the success you want to be. I look forward to connecting with you again next week. Bye now.
Tune in every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern for Only the Best for You with Carol Davies on Global Voice Radio.